I'll never forget the day I rolled into Pinewood Estates in my Bugatti Chiron. The security guard at the gate did a double take, his jaw practically hitting the pavement as the deep sapphire paint gleamed under the afternoon sun. I'd only been in the neighborhood for 3 weeks, lying low after the biggest one of my tech career. The house was everything I'd dreamed of: spacious, modern, tucked away in a quiet community where I could finally catch my breath after years of grinding. But I was barely 20 feet from my driveway when a piercing scream shattered the calm. At first, I thought someone was hurt, but a glance in my rear VYEW mirror showed a woman in her 50s charging toward me, arms flailing like she was shooing a flock of pigeons. Her face was twisted with fury, designer sunglasses bouncing on her nose as she yelled something drowned out by the soft purr of my engine. "Stop that car! Stop it right now!" she bellowed, slamming her palm against my driver's side window. I cracked it open, more confused than anything, trying to keep my cool. "Do you have any idea what you're doing to our community with this? This monstrosity," she spat, while VYing at my car like it was a dumpster on wheels. "Excuse me," I said, genuinely thrown. "This car," she shrieked, her voice dripping with exasperation, as if I was playing dumb. "It's tacky, it's absurd, and it's ruining the VYB of my neighborhood." She leaned hard on like she owned every blade of grass in Pinewood. By now, I noticed neighbors peeking out, some filming on their phones, others gawking like they'd stumbled onto a reality show. "I'm sorry, but I don't see the issue," I said, keeping my tone steady. "This is my car, and I'm just DRIVYing home." Her nostrils flared, and she sucked in a breath so sharp I thought she might pass out. "I'm Linda Haverford, president of the Pinewood Estates HOA," she declared, like she was announcing her coronation. "We have standards here, and that," she jabbed a finger at my Bugatti, "doesn't meet them." I'd heard whispers about Linda from my realtor, a woman who ran the neighborhood like a dictator with a rulebook thicker than a phone directory. But this was next level. "Well, Linda," I said, my patience thinning, "I'm just trying to get home. Is there an actual rule against owning a Bugatti?" Her face turned a shade of red that didn't look healthy. "You'll hear from the board," she hissed, then spun around, already dialing someone as she stormed off. I pulled into my driveway, rattled, but thinking that was the end of it. I was wrong. 2 days later, a crisp envelope landed in my mailbox, a formal HOA complaint about vehicles inconsistent with community standards. I dug through the bylaws I'd gotten when I bought the place. Nothing banned luxury cars. In fact, I'd seen a Bentley and a couple of Porsches around. But apparently, my Bugatti was public enemy number one. Over the next week, Linda's campaign kicked into gear. She'd stroll by my house way too often, snapping photos of my car like a private investigator. One time, I caught her measuring the gap between my tires and the curb with a tape measure. When she saw me watching, she flashed a smug smile and jotted something in a little notebook, like she was building a case for the Supreme Court. I tried to play nice. At the local coffee shop, I spotted her and offered to buy her a latte, hoping to smooth things over. "I don't take bribes," she snapped, then claimed she'd gotten multiple complaints about noise from my house the previous weekend. "Thing is, I'd been at a conference in Chicago." "Linda, I wasn't even home," I said as gently as I could. "Well, someone was," she shot back, eyes narrowing, "and they were disruptive. We take noise violations seriously here." Things got crazier when another HOA notice arrived, claiming my Bugatti was too tall for residential driveways. My car, which sits lower than a skateboard. I emailed the board, pointing out the absurdity, and got a curt reply about discussing it at the next meeting. But the real showdown came on a sunny Saturday while I was washing my car. The soft swish of the chamois was almost zen until I heard the hum of an electric golf cart. I turned to see Linda barreling onto my property, parking her cart sideways to block my driveway like she was staging a protest. "Excuse me," I called, trying not to snap. "You're on my property, and you're blocking me in." She stepped out, decked in a pastel green tennis outfit despite Pinewood VYing no tennis courts with the swagger of someone who thought she owned the world. "We need to talk about that," she said, pointing at my Bugatti like it was a crime scene. "I've had countless complaints about this eyesore. It's disturbing the neighborhood." I took a deep breath. "Linda, This is a legally purchased car, parked on my private property. There's no rule against it. She let out a sharp, mocking laugh. Section 7, paragraph 3 says vehicles must maintain the aesthetic harmony of the community, she recited, like she was quoting the Bible. That's subjective, I fired back. Plenty of people here have fancy cars, and they're not getting complaints. None of them are as offensive as this, she said, practically spitting the word. Do you know what this does to property values? People move here for elegance, not to live next to something out of a music video. My patience was gone. Linda, move your cart so I can finish. She doubled down. This car's a safety hazard. The glare could blind drivers. The engine's too loud for sensitive ears. And how do we know you're not street racing at night? I almost laughed at the absurdity. I'm asking you one last time to leave, I said, my voice firm. She crossed her arms, planting her feet. Not until you garage this thing or sell it. I pulled out my phone. Then I'm calling the police for trespassing. A flicker of doubt crossed her face, but she masked it with a sneer. You wouldn't dare. Oh, I would, I said, dead calm. You're trespassing and harassing me over a legal vehicle. What happened next was so wild I doubt my own memory if my doorbell camera hadn't caught it all. Linda's face cycled through shock, rage, and then out of nowhere theatrical despair. She let out a wail that probably scared every dog in the county, then threw herself across the hood of my Bugatti, sprawling like she'd been shot in a soap opera. You're ruining everything, she sobbed, cheek pressed against the paint I'd just spent an hour polishing. The neighborhood, the standards, the property values. I stood there, stunned. Linda, get off my car, I said, my voice sharp. I can't take it, she cried, pounding a fist weakly on the hood. First it's a Bugatti, then food trucks, street performers, pink flamingos. The doorbell camera's red light blinked steadily, recording every second. When Linda spotted it, she froze, then slid off the hood with the agility of an Olympic gymnast, her breakdown forgotten. Are you recording me? She demanded, her voice suddenly steady. My security system records my property, I said, which you're trespassing on. Her eyes narrowed. That's a privacy violation. I'll sue you for everything, including this ridiculous car. Talk to your lawyer, I said, barely holding it together. Now leave before I call the cops. She stormed to her cart, jabbing a finger at me. This isn't over. She peeled out, nearly clipping my mailbox. I thought that was the peak of the drama. Nope. 20 minutes later, 2 police cruisers rolled up, lights flashing. Linda's golf cart screeched in behind them, and she leapt out, pointing at my house like she'd caught a fugitive. That's him, officers, she shouted. He threatened me, and his illegal car is disturbing the peace. One officer approached me, calm but cautious. Sir, we got a call about a disturbance involving a vehicle and possible threats. What's going on? I exhaled, relieved to talk to someone rational. The HOA president's been harassing me about my car for weeks. Today, she drove onto my property, refused to leave, and threw herself on my car. It's all on my doorbell camera. The officer glanced at my Bugatti, eyebrow raised. Nice car. Thanks, I said, but there's no rule against it. If it checked. I showed him the footage inside while his partner dealt with Linda, who was VYing her arms like she was directing traffic. The officer watched the video, his face shifting from neutral to barely hiding a grin. So she just dove onto the hood, he asked, mimicking the move. Yup, I said. I've got the HOA notices 2 rules that don't exist or don't apply. He nodded, skimming the papers. We've had calls from her before, he admitted. She's known to us. Outside, Linda was mid-rant. He said he'd run me over with that monster. I feared for my life, she cried, voice quivering with fake emotion. The officers exchanged a look, and the one with me stepped in. Mrs. Haverford, the footage doesn't back your story. It shows you trespassing after being asked to leave and what could be vandalism. Linda's jaw dropped. That's impossible. He edited it. The timestamp's continuous, the officer said. Her face went pale. I didn't know he would never. The second officer, Rodriguez, pulled her aside, speaking low. Whatever he said wiped the smugness off her face. The first officer turned to me. You're within your rights to park this on your property. No municipal code violations here. Thank you, I said, tension easing. He leaned in, voice low. Between us, this isn't her first rodeo. Multiple complaints, no formal action yet. Rodriguez rejoined us, Linda trailing behind, her confidence shot. Mr. Carter's not pressing charges for trespassing or potential damage, Rodriguez told her. But I'm issuing you a warning for misusing emergency services and possible harassment. Harassment? Linda squeaked, her voice hitting a pitch that could shatter glass. I'm the VY Tim. I'm protecting our standards. Ma'am, Rodriguez said, unfazed, this is your third unsubstantiated call this month. Keep it up, and you'll face bigger consequences. Linda's defiance crumbled into a cold, calculating silence. She took the warning, glaring at me like I'd personally burned her house down. This isn't over, she muttered as the officers led her to her cart. Actually, the first officer said, firm but polite, I suggest it is. After they left, the neighborhood felt different. Neighbors crept out, suddenly brave. She went after my koi pond, Mrs. Lee whispered. Said it was a squirrel hazard. She reported my Christmas lights in July, Mr. Singh added. They weren't even up. Linda's reign had terrorized more people than I'd realized. The next HOA meeting was packed. Linda sat up front, stiff as a board, avoiding eye contact with the crowd. She tried to run the show, but every word she said sparked murmurs. During open comments, people unloaded. The bylaws aren't her personal weapon, old Mrs. Callahan said, voice steady. They're for the community, not her grudges. Linda's face reddened as neighbor after neighbor called out her bullying. When she tried to defend herself, the room went silent as silence, he VY, than any shout. Then came the bombshell, a vote of no confidence in Linda's leadership, plus a re-VYEW of her conduct. It passed, with only Linda voting against it. She grabbed her papers, hands shaking, and marched out, her heels clicking like gunshots. 3 weeks later, a letter arrived. Linda had resigned from the HOA, blaming health issues. At the bottom, in furious, paper-tearing scrawl, she'd written, I hope you're happy, Ethan. 20 years of building this community, ruined by outsiders with no respect for tradition. I'm selling my house. I won't watch Pinewood fall to chaos. Enjoy your gaudy car while property values tank. I read it in my driveway, the sun glinting off my Bugatti's flawless finish. For the first time in months, I felt at ease. No more sneaky inspections. No more fake violations. No more Linda. Across the street, a MOVYing van pulled up her house, sold already. A new family unloaded boxes, and I caught a woman watching me from behind curtain. Her eyes locked on my car, narrowing, and she whispered to a man beside her, pointing my way with a look I knew too well. My VY Tory felt a little less sweet. Maybe the Bugatti battle wasn't over after all.